I run a support group for parents and carers of children with a disability. Now, a lot of the parents are very worried about the cuts to the NDIS, especially in relation to early intervention and children with developmental delays. Will these savings, as you call them, what will they look like, and will the funding be cut altogether?
Yeah. Was it Julia or Julie?
Julie.
Julie, thanks for your question, Julie, and thanks for your work. And for the opportunity to talk about this, because I think this is a really important issue in the budget. Our overwhelming priority is to make sure that people who are in the NDIS, the people that we designed the NDIS to help, get the care and the services and the equipment that they need and deserve. That's our priority, and daylight second. And one of the ways that we do that is we make sure that every dollar that is intended for participants in the scheme reaches participants in the scheme. And there has been fraud, and there has been ways that people are trying to make a buck out of the NDIS, and we want to try and stamp that out because every dollar that is wasted in the NDIS can't go to the people that you work with and work for, and the people I work for, frankly, in funding the scheme. And so what we've said, what Bill Shorten, the Minister, has said, and the Prime Minister, working with the states and territories, is let's see where we can address this fraud, let's see where we can address this waste that might be the NDIS, not because we want the people that you work with to get less support, on the contrary. We want them to get the support that we designed the scheme to provide.
Julie, I'm like you, sitting here and wondering how do these numbers add up? Because we look at the numbers, 17.9 billion, which you say you can get down to 1.9 billion in 4 years, and yet NDIS is growing at 14% a year. You think you can get that down, but how on earth does that add up? How do you go from 17.2 billion to 1.9 billion in 4 years?
Well, I've just been explaining to Julie
but how do you do that without cutting services? Does everyone agree that is an enormous change, isn't it? Is that the same NDIS?
Well, yeah, we're talking about delivering...
So no one's going to lose services. Julie's working with kids with disability, learning disabilities.
Learning disability.
I understand.
Cognitive, physical...
Yeah.
Is someone with ADHD going to be taken off it to get from 17.9? That is an enormous change.
Yeah, what we're trying to do here is not throw people off the scheme who need our help. What we're trying to do here is not unnecessarily hack away at the funding for the scheme. What I'm trying to say to Julie and to a lot of people who are in fairness, you know, I know that people are concerned about this. I have it raised with me in the street, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing about our country that people raise it. Our intention here is to deliver a high standard of care and service, and the way that we do that is we make sure that every dollar which is intended for participants in the scheme reaches participants in the scheme. And in order to do that, we need to tackle some of the issues that I've already run through. We can still have the scheme costs are still expected to grow substantially over time. About 8% target.
8% rather than 14.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't understand. So just help me out here. 17.2 billion to 1.9 billion, even as it grows at 8%, and you're saying you'll get to that number and you won't take people off it. There won't be cuts to services.
Yeah.
You'll just get to that by cutting out rorts. That number doesn't add up.
Well, that's one important way that we'll go about it. Julie would understand, as you know, the people that we deal with in my electorate office understand, that there is plan inflation in lots of cases where if you're going back for a plan really regularly, often that plan goes up a substantial amount each time, and so we can change the timeframes for some of that planning. We all know that the equipment, if it's got the NDIS stamp of approval, often costs many multiples of equipment that doesn't have that stamp on it. So there's another avenue that I know Bill Shorten is thinking about. We've got this review underway at the same time. The 8% target doesn't kick in till 2026. And so we have years to work with Julie and with participants in the scheme and the sector more broadly and the NDIA and others to make sure that we get it right.
Does this convince you, Julie?
Not particularly. I keep thinking about all the young children that are coming into the system in the first place, and I think that's where a lot of the drops are going to happen. I think a lot of those children, the goalposts are going to change based
So are you looking for a guarantee that people will not be taken
we're looking
off?
for a guarantee that our kids are going to be able to get the early intervention when they need it and not have to wait so long until they are into
Can you
the
give that?
NDIS
Yeah,
system.
I mean, of course. I mean, the NDIS is designed by a former Labor government to provide help for the people that Julie works with and for, and that will always continue under us. And our motivation here is to not hack away at the scheme. Our motivation here is to make it as good as it can be, to provide the service and the care and the support that people need and deserve in the scheme. That's our motivation. And anybody who looks at the scheme, I don't think anybody who knows the scheme well thinks it's perfect. I think everybody understands that there are ways that we can get better value for money without jeopardising or diminishing the care that we want to provide.
Thank you, Julie.